The University of South Africa, the Water Research Commission and the Department of Water and Sanitation are all meeting today to have critical discussions around the country's water woes. It's the 2025 Water Imbizo, and it comes at a time, of course, when many residents across the country are complaining about a lack of consistent supply. Let's get you a sense of what's likely to emerge from this gathering. Bring in Senior Manager for Water Advisory Services at the Water Research Commission. That's Dr. Valerie Naidoo, who's with us now via our video link. Doc, it's lovely to see you and welcome to the SABC News Channel. I wonder if you can take us through, how this particular gathering was conceptualized. I mean, there's no overstating the importance of it, given, as I mentioned, the proliferation of this problem.
Yeah, I think for South Africa, essentially, we have major water challenges, and it's National Water Week this week. And I think universities play an important part, together with the WRC, as a broader set of think tanks and advisories to the water sector. So the Imbizo is really about how do you bring collective minds together, the different state institutions, UNISA as a university, within this broader national system of innovation, and how do we think around some of these challenges and how we can solve them going forward, both with science, knowledge, and technology and innovation uptake. Yeah,
in many sectors, and I imagine, this particular sector is no exception, there's been real concerns about the extent to which government and bureaucrats listen to researchers and scientists. How big an issue do you reckon that is for you?
So I think firstly, in the water sector, they have set processes and practices, and it's difficult. I think when you lay infrastructure, for example, you're laying it for 25, 30, and if you're running it really well, it could run all the way to 40, 50-year operations and maintenance around infrastructure, and then practices get embedded in institutions. And so when you start bringing in innovations and new ideas, it's sometimes, as they say, it's difficult to turn the elephant. It's already embedded in practice, and so you need a good and bold leadership looking at what is coming through from an innovation perspective, from a science perspective, and then how do you base some of that decision making using evidence, using data, and using these institutions which can provide real new thinking around the way we do things.
Yeah. From a layman's perspective, and I'm talking about myself, the only kind of issue I've been able to wrap my head around is the issue to do with leaks. We've been told that's been a huge contributor to the water supply constraints that we're experiencing, not only in Gauteng, but around the country. How high up the agenda do you reckon fixing that infrastructural issue will be for the Imbizo?
So I think, in terms of the Imbizo, it's part of the entire set of discussions that we'll have around innovations and solutions and the science around it. However, I think in South Africa at the moment, we're looking at, obviously, how do you bring more and more water supply systems back on? Last week, we just had a big conference around water reuse and reclamation, and how do you bring those systems online together with your surface water, your groundwater? But the war on leaks is a big issue, and South Africa needs to move from its 46% non-revenue water loss, which, by the way, is both loss from a commercial point of view, but also from a volumetric point of view, and how you bring it down to more the global averages. I think, to some extent, 15 is the percentage that we set up in the Water Research Development and Innovation Roadmap about 5 years ago. A lot of the municipalities have not really moved substantially. Some have, but not significantly. And I think that's a big area to tackle going forward. And with that, you can bring in new innovations around how you do your detection, how you actually maybe use new innovation around the fixing and the repairs, and how do you bring maybe new small businesses to do the kind of repairs on the war on leaks for buildings, for households, etc.
Yeah, there was a recent water-related commission that was held in Cape Town as well, and part of what really came out of that was how societies, including our own, need to become accustomed with the concept of water reuse, given population growth and just the scarcity of the resource itself. What does that mean in layman's terms? Because I don't think that's a phrase that we've become accustomed to here in South Africa. And in what ways could innovation, I suppose, stop moving us in that direction?
So I think as South Africans, we, especially in the urban areas, not so much in the rural areas, because I think that has been a legacy issue there. But in the urban areas, we've been used to opening our taps and having 24/7 supply. We've also been used to having a supply with a water quality where we can drink from the taps. But we're seeing as it's becoming more and more difficult to supply our needs based on surface water, we now have to use other sources of water. So even water that is slightly polluted, how do you actually then treat it? So there comes in innovation around technology choices for treatment practices. Basically, how do you actually do water quality monitoring so you can bring in innovation there from a remote sensoring, from satellite monitoring, etc. So there's a whole new space where we can look at how do you bring on reuse, not only at the municipal level, but at the household level, at the commercial nodes level, at the new development level. We can basically shift more into the green building space and start to bring on more water efficiency measures, start to use data and information so that we control how we change our behaviors in terms of how we use water, but also how the city uses water. How does the city monitor the different segments of water users in a smart way that makes it available both for us to grow economically, but also to have a good quality of life at the same time without as many stoppages and shortages as we've seen recently.
Fair enough. Look, I don't think anybody expects this one gathering to solve all our water issues, at least not now. So I have to ask what for you would be a mark of a successful Imbizo at the end of today? In other words, what are some of the tangibles you're hoping to walk out with as a commission to get you a sense that this was, in fact, time well spent?
Yeah, I think for us, it's a commitment from UNISA and the various departments that they're understanding the strategy and the challenges, that they align their scope of work in terms of research and tech development towards that to solve some of the challenges, but also then to say that, you know, it's not just about publishing papers, but how do you work with these communities? How do you work with the municipalities, the national departments, the different entities, even commercial partners, so that we can actually take some of these technologies into the marketplace and start using them so that we can treat the water and reuse the water more effectively. So I think coming out of it, the main message, how do you strengthen the collaboration? How do we have a shared vision around some of these things? I don't expect UNISA to solve all the problems. It's a big problem. All the universities are part of this group of think tanks, should I say, around the country. But what can they do in terms of their share? And then what can we do as the Water Research Commission to work with them as well so that we together can find some solutions for the country?
Fascinating and, of course, overstating the importance of a gathering like this. Dr. Valerie Naidoo, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us.